Baton Rouge. Every Monday, Ross Dellenger of Sports Illustrated is with us. Same old song and dance after this first Saturday in November. Do you expect anything different, Ross?
Yeah. Well, I expected probably a little closer game in Tiger Stadium, certainly than there was. I didn't expect LSU to win, but I expected for them to give it a four-quarter game, and at halftime, despite it only being, a two-possession game, it felt like a four-possession game. And going into the fourth quarter, it was a three-possession game, I think, and it felt like a six-possession game. So it never really felt close, You
had a great write-up on SI.com going into the game about the other 364 days around LSU, Alabama that really circles around recruiting, and you zeroed in on a small parish in South Louisiana, Tangipahoa Parish, that has produced per capita a ton of college and NFL football players. Right now, all of the recruitment is centered around one defensive tackle in Ismail Sopsher. Surprise, surprise, it's a two-horse race between LSU and Alabama. A lot of people believe that Alabama has the lead there. And now covering Bama and LSU, the culture that Alabama has built in recruiting these athletes against LSU, what's the difference, in your opinion?
Well, it kind of depends on the case. I think in Tangipahoa Parish, the big deal is relationships and kind of connections. On Nick Saban's staff, he's got a couple of Louisiana guys and a couple of Tangipahoa guys specifically. Their defensive coordinators from Hammond, and their one of their support staff members, like director of player personnel, is actually from Amite, the town of where Ismail Sopsher is from, and he actually played with Ishmael's father, played football with Ishmael's father. So in that case, there's a lot of connections and relationships there that probably different from others. But, man, Nick Saban doesn't just do this in just Louisiana, and Nick Saban does this in a lot of states, and it's because he's got a lot of rings, and because he's very aggressive, and his staff is very aggressive and very hardworking, and they put everything into recruiting. I think Les Miles one time told me it's a program kind of built around recruiting, a recruiting machine. I remember him telling me everything is kind of focused on that. So it doesn't matter the state. They approach, I think, everything the same. Why you hear so much about Louisiana and him having so much success in Louisiana is because I think he was the former coach at LSU, and that always just kind of ruffles feathers. I think you hear about it more, but it happens in every state with Nick, and Louisiana just happens to be a state where he formerly coached and recruited at LSU, and so I think we all kind of hear about it a little more.
Talking to Ross Dellenger of Sports Illustrated here on Off the Bench at 104.5, 100.3 ESPN. Ross, what stood out to me after the game, because, look, I think the reasons for this loss, first and foremost, there is a talent disparity on those lines, especially LSU's offensive line against Bama's defensive line. But I still don't feel – I feel like when you get shut out, that the coaches deserve some blame as well. I don't feel like they're wholly blameless in this thing. And yet after the game, you had Coach O come out and say that it's all about the lines, that he didn't think it was scheme-related. They tried everything they could. Were you surprised? And, you kind of doubled down on this a couple times. Were you surprised to see him so bluntly blame it on the lack of talent?
Well, not necessarily. I think he's always recruiting. It seems like it is, and that's kind of another way to recruit is after a big loss like that to call out, to 17, 18-year-old high school players who play on the line, and I think that was a message for them that he was sending. Hey, come play here, and you can play. You can be the difference. So I think he's kind of always recruiting, but
But then what does that do to guys like Lawrence and Fehoko, guys who you are going to want to try to convince to come back next year when they hear that we need D linemen like them, we need bigger and stronger, faster guys like them?
Well, that could be a problem, right? And I know that that's something that people have been talking about it, and that can be a problem in the locker room. And I mean, you very well know, how players nowadays see everything, and with social media, internet, and all that. I mean, nothing, you can't really hide anything from a press conference anymore. So I'm sure players see that, and that's something that's kind of the downside of doing that. There's no doubt about it, and there's been other teams this season who have scored on Alabama, and they probably didn't have the linemen that Alabama has, of course, and they might not have had the linemen that LSU had.
Yeah.
But they found a way to move the ball a little bit against Alabama. That's the thing. If you're going to be susceptible to Alabama in this area or that area, you kind of gotta start doing something different, And maybe LSU did do that, still didn't have success. I don't know, but I think Ed is always recruiting, and sometimes probably doesn't think of the other side necessarily. And that's probably, honestly, I think that's probably honestly how he felt after the game. Is we got to improve on the lines, and we got to do this, and we got to do that. And unfortunately, when you say that, it could backfire. In the locker room, it could.
And it's interesting because I agree with him. The talent disparity on the lines it was very evident, and it was arguably the deciding factor in the game. But I think that's one of those situations where even if you believe that, you just have to maybe you can kind of hint at that maybe without being so blatant. Another thing that surprised me on Saturday, Ross, LSU has operated for the most part this year out of a play-to-win mentality, going for it on 4th and short, taking some risks to win the game. You did not see that against Alabama. I get not going for it on the 4th and short in the first half. You weren't running the ball at all. You were trying to keep it close for the second half, but that was indicative of a kind of conservatism that they said they were going to avoid. And then you look at the end of the game, the 4th and 8, where you're down 22-0 and you punt it, even though you're in Alabama territory. You have the 4th down where you kick a field goal, even though you're down 22-0. What did you think about some of those decisions?
Well, the field goal was. I think the field goal was let's notch the scoreboard. At that point, it felt to me, and probably everybody else watching the game, was over. And it was kind of let's at least get points on the board and not just shut out. That's what it felt like to me. Whether you agree with it or not, I think that's what it was. It wasn't we're going to try to get 3 points to win the game. That was a signal to me of we're going to try to get some points on the scoreboard.
And that is so I agree, and that's just so it seems so bad to me. That's kind of weak in my opinion.
I think a lot of people disagreed. And the 4th down call, I think it was in the 3rd quarter. Maybe it was after the long return, right? At the long kick return.
Is that when they had 4th and short and they punted it?
I think it was 4th and maybe 3 or 4 or 2, something like that. And they did punt it. And I wasn't surprised. It seemed like a lot more people were surprised they punted it than I did. Because at that point, I think you were averaging 1 yard a carry against Alabama. But, if you're going to win the game or try to win the game, you got to go for those probably, even though the deck's kind of stacked against you. But if you don't go for it, you don't get it, you weren't going to win anyway kind of feel to it. So, a lot of people in the press box, a lot of national guys were really, I think, surprised that they punted there. What I was thinking in my head was, well, you've got 5 rushing yards against Alabama, and it's I think it was 4th and 3, and you don't have time to throw the ball. They're probably going to pin their ears back and come. I mean, the chances of you getting it are very low. But at that point, the chances
what do you
of
have to lose?
The game were very low unless you got that. So I can see both sides. But I think specifically the field goal was let's notch the scoreboard, because that's just kind of what it felt like to me, And that's never ever a great thing. I know fans in media too don't really want to see a coach do that, but that's what it felt like to me.
You know where you're headed this weekend? Did they give you your assignment this far in advance?
No, not yet. A lot of times I won't find out till midweek or by Tuesday or something like that. And sometimes I'm not at a game at all. We're not huge and I looked at the list of games this week, and nothing huge jumps out. I think there's only 2 top 25 matchups, so nothing really big. So I might actually just stick around and watch all the games on TV or something.
Deli, good stuff this Monday morning, man. Thanks.
All right, guys. See y'all later.
Ross Dellenger from Sports Illustrated. We'll be back and close it out.